Perfect. So welcome everyone to our third session with Micah Mangione from Connect AI on how to outrank your competition online. So Micah, previous two previous two sessions have been amazing, and we know this one's gonna be as amazing or even better. So thanks for being here with us today. I will give you the floor and so delight us with all your information. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. And if you guys are just joining, this is number 3 of 3. So let's go ahead and not delay and get started. So what I plan to do today is that uh, the first two webinars in this series were about what are the ranking factors? How can we position ourselves to rank as businesses? What are the things that the search engines look for? So what does Google look for? What does the other search providers that you might not think of, the social media networks? They're also search providers because internally they also need search to find their own users and for you to find anything. Without search, it's not very useful. So you don't think about it, but when you are optimizing your web presence, you actually have to be cognizant of your web presence on the social media networks. Do they like you? Well, are they going to recommend your links? Are they going to allow others to find you? So all of these questions really come up. So that was number one. What do they look for, and how do we structure our information on our site? Number two was that what happened last week is we reviewed this and we started to look more strategically at using free tools, using Google Trends and Google AdWords, using their free keyword checker tool. We started to dig into how do we position our site, how do we look for trends, how do we see what people are searching for, how do we pick the right keywords and topics for us to talk about, and how do we time those topics correctly. And so that was all about keywords, trends, and timing. And today is going to be slightly different. Today is going to be about in the marketplace of ideas. This is a competition, and so we need to compete. When we think about competitors, there's a lot of kind of confusion, especially when we first with Connect AI start our onboarding process. Because when we say competitors and competition, what we mean is usually search competitors, and that may or may not be an actual physical competitor. It means competitors who are fighting for the same search space. So if you remember back to the last webinar, we had an example about, and if you didn't see it, we had an example about dish soap and soap dish. When Google processes queries, first of all, they are processing about 45,000 per second. And they about 20% of everything they see, they've never seen before. So whether that's structure, whether that's content, whether things are misspelled or any of that, even given all that, they still need to return useful results. And so they have to make some assumptions. And so the example of soap dish and dish soap was a good example of knowing your competitor. If you had a little tiny soap dish company on Etsy that sold custom soap dishes, you'd be very surprised if you went to go buy advertising for it and found yourself competing with Colgate and Johnson & Johnson and 3M for dish soap. Now, while we know that a soap dish and dish soap are not the same thing, we also know that we aren't machines. The machines think that it's the same thing. So that's something that we had to be cognizant of. If we weren't paying attention, we would be fighting in our search battle and our search dollars and our SEO presence, we'd be fighting against much larger companies like Colgate. And that's not what was intended. They're not trying to fight your individual small Etsy store. They're going for the big dish soap term. So that is an example of a difference between a kind of a real competitor and a search competitor. So you have to know your space, and we used those tools last time to learn it. So this time is 3 of 3 in the series. You know, I think that this is a third time through this About Us. If you are just new here, we've been doing this for a while. We specialize in large scale systems, and we come with a lot of industry experience, especially my co-founder. And she comes from Boeing and has a long career in the aviation industry. All right, so without further ado, how to outrank your competition. Again, just to kind of reiterate the same point, this is really a series about driving. It's about figuring out how we can rank, because figuring out how you ranking well means Google sends you traffic, and Google sending you traffic means that you have more people on your site to convert and actually generate revenue. So it all starts with how do we understand ourselves in relation to this rank, and how do we understand this problem in this process. So we're going to start off with the first jumping off point in this series. I kind of gave the preamble. So we're going to jump straight into understanding the nature of what it is that we're doing, understanding the trends, understanding how we are going to harness them. But we're going to take a slightly different tact this time, and we're going to understand trends in terms of what we have to do to stay on top of a pack. You know, if you have a new business or you have a new client, and they need to get found and they need to get seen online, what you have to do is you have to understand your competitors, understand the space of your competition, and then be able to effectively manipulate that space. And so what we'll find out is it actually matters a whole lot where that competition takes place. It can be desktop, mobile, or tablet. And to Google, these are whole different venues, almost 3 separate battles that you fight. And so even if your site ranks well for, let's say, the desktop view, it might not rank well for the mobile or the tablet. And if it doesn't rank well for the mobile, then you're in trouble, because 65% of all search clicks come from mobile. So let's talk a little bit about that. Oops. So the first thing to understand is that it is always kind of a competition. And, you know, we tend to view this as a balancing act, where, you know, if you have a site, you know, the challenge and the fine line you have to walk between having a site that appears well on mobile and having a site that appears well on and functions well on desktop. The size is different, so you have to figure out how to repackage information differently, which leads to all sorts of kind of complexity down the line. So the device choice is kind of the first big decision that you have to make. Granted, 65% of all search clicks come from a mobile device. And so as we'll see here, this outpaces the desktop search market. So if you're designing because it looks great on your desktop and you haven't thought about what it looks like on your phone, then you're already kind of behind there. And the real problem is what we call the device page dynamics. There's different information that you can put on there, so there's a different amount of thought that has to go through it. If you are just looking at a comparison between, let's say you have a desktop here and then a laptop here, well, I mean, these can just be what we call scaled versions, and essentially contain the same information. These laptops have really high resolution screen. But if you're going to change your site over to a tablet or even a phone, now you're really talking about repackaging a substantial amount of information. And this is increasingly important in our US market. the share of mobile traffic as of when this had come out January 2020. So it looks like this is a little, this is through September 2020. So this is a little bit old. And we saw an uptick in desktop usage, but this is directly kind of as a result of the pandemic. People just have more desktops and they aren't on the go as much. And so we actually saw, you can see here in this data, we started when we had no mobile devices or very few, maybe like BlackBerry and Palm down here in near 2009 and before. And then the dominance of browsers as the main way of viewing sites actually stopped. And you could actually see that in the change in trends in what people are actually spending money on. In 2018, you can kind of see here on this left-hand side, this is the distribution of ad spend. Mobile in 2018 was only 33%, and then it was pretty well, this is pretty well even between mobile, TV, and everything else. But you can see that desktop, laptop share, the amount of advertising that goes specifically to those platforms, print, radio, and as time goes on and as we have more mobile devices and as it's easier, Google has started applying penalties if your site is not mobile ready. So there is their own set of criteria about page load, how much the page changes, because we all hate that. I think that I can speak for almost everybody when I hate when you load a page on your mobile and let's say an ad loads after. So let's say this is notorious. This happens notoriously on news sites where you go to the news site with your mobile phone, it loads, and then 2 or 3 seconds later, an ad loads, and whatever content it was you're looking at, now you have to go search for it. So Google doesn't like that either, and they've started penalizing that. So they look for page load speed and what they call your frame painting change, which means once you've directed somebody to a site, how much does it change by the time all the information settles? And they're looking for things exactly like that. Because what they know that the market is dominated by mobile traffic and it's only going to increase in its share. So it's in their best interest to make sure that they start ranking for mobile experience so that they can stay ahead of that curve. They know that that's the future for them anyhow. So you can kind of see that here too. So if you're not designing for mobile, you've got to be thinking about it because most of the ad dollars by 2022 are going to go there anyhow. So in order to kind of outrank, we have to understand what types of search there are, according to Google. We did talk about how there are only 4 basic intents to Google, or 4 basic searcher intents. And those, to briefly recap, the 4 basic searcher intents were, let me pull up our slides so I can kind of share this. Let's switch over to this one here. Yeah, there we go. Here's the first one. So here are the 4 general types of search intents. This means, what do you intend to do with that search? Either Google puts you into one of 4 categories. They have 200 ranking factors. So it could be everything from time of day to type of device to the location. And so then they take all those factors, and the whole purpose is to put you into one of 4 categories. Are you looking for information? Are you looking to are you looking to make a preference choice? So this is what types of shoes are available. This is what types of shoes are the best for hiking, And this is where can I find the best price and then make a purchase for those hiking shoes. The navigational is I forgot how to get to the login page. So there, just to recall, there are those 4 basic types of searcher intents. And oops, switch over here. And let's see. So there are those 4 basic type of intents, but within those intents, what sorts of things might we be looking for? Because remember, the number one way of figuring out what you should be doing is by typing your keywords into Google and seeing what Google thinks you should be doing. It's not going to help for you to try to swim upstream. It's going to be very difficult if you think that you are going to deploy navigational content to Google for that search term, and it thinks it's giving back information, then you now have a competition of wills, and I can promise you that Google's better suited to survive that. So you have to, the best way of understanding, if you sell shoes and you think that you are going to write a page about the history of shoes, the best thing that you can do is go in there and type that into Google and see what Google says. I know it's a simple, everyone looks for kind of more magic, more high quality and more magical tools, but to be honest, using the tools there, they're free and they're quite prescriptive. So let's talk a little bit about the types of searches, the types of results, and how to rank for each of those, and the important things in each of those. So just as a quick refresher, and this, knowing that this is a little bit old, but it shows all the essential pieces that we need. So this is kind of the anatomy of a search result. And yeah, exactly. A very good point, Larry. Thank you. Let us help Google help you, and you do that by just seeing what Google thinks about a certain query. So here the search query is Concord Plumber, and what Google thinks about that is, well, first of all, you see kind of the AdWords space, so they know that you want plumbing. In the middle, they say, okay, well, if you want a plumber, it's probably because you need somebody to come out in person. So you probably need some local results. And in those local results, so this is the Google My Business listing. You get to this and you edit this by filling out a Google My Business profile. So any business that needs local traffic should have the Google My Business. The Google My Business profile controls your appearance on Google Maps. And it's the same thing for all the other ones, same thing for Apple Maps, same thing for whatever Bing's mapping service is. It's the exact same thing and works the exact same way with them. But below that, now you're really competing in what we call the SEO area. But you're not going to beat Yelp. Yelp is something like the 10th or 12th most trafficked website in the US. It's incredible. So you really don't want to beat them. And Google really it knows that if Yelp has something that is going to satisfy a search query, it's more likely to have to score greater in the EAT factors, the expertise, authority, and trust. So Yelp is going to beat you every time. But Google's not going to just let them dominate the whole page. They did for a while in some of the early updates. I don't know if you guys remember, maybe 2006 or 2007, Google was just experimenting with these factors. And even at the time, Amazon dominated. And so anything related to any product, you almost couldn't get around Amazon. You just had pages and pages of Amazon listings. So they have fixed that now, but that used to be the case. That would have been the case with Yelp too, except for they really want to shuffle in and be testing some other content. They don't want this to just be another interface for Yelp. So below that is the other sites that are starting to rank. against Concord Plumber. So the first type of result, okay, so we're going to go through each one of these results, and specifically we're going to go through the ad setup and what it is that you need and where they get their information, so that you know how you can optimize your ad. Some of these here, while it's hard to see because these were really just intended to prove a point about the page structure, some of these are better than others, right? Some of these look great and might drive a click, and others are just kind of text on a page. So you can kind of just see the ones here in the middle, text on pages. But this one at the bottom, which is the same thing here. Oh, no, that's not. But it's similar, right? You got your stars, you got your rating, you've got a nice little snippet here that says A+ Diamond Certified Plumber. And here you have your stars, your star rating, and you have a number to call. So there's many ways that you can kind of structure your getting an ad out there and driving a click on it. So let's talk a little bit about what sorts there are and how you can do that. So the first one is what we call a text ad, and we're going to look at it on the desktop. Text ads are displayed at the top and bottom of search results pages. So it can be either the top or the bottom, depending on the page. And we've all seen them. They come before the organic search results. And right now, Google is differentiating these with the black ad here, the word ad before it. And depending on, they are going to tell you what they think about the searcher's intent by showing you what sorts of ads they allow and what sorts of listings they allow. So you can see here that we're going to have some pretty common features. When Google extracts information from your page, and when you show up on search results like this, what you're actually giving it is a type of markup called schema.org. And that's a way of marking the HTML on your page and telling Google how to read it. So that has special areas to say, okay, hey Google, this is an e-commerce page. I sell subscriptions to insurance. Here's where the product is. Here's where the price is. Here's where my reviews are. Here's where my aggregate reviews are. And that is what you see here. So up top is just a standard, what you call the URL or the FQDN, the fully qualified domain name. It's just a fancy way of saying the URL. And here is your title tag inside the site. So this is the content in between the two brackets that say title. And this ranking comes from your schema.org. And specifically, it used to be that Google would allow you to tell it what these were. And so, there was much gamesmanship going on, and you could essentially just make up both reviews and ratings. And as long as you just told it what it was, Google would just display that as if it were the ground truth. That's not the way it works anymore. As of today, in order to get these rankings shown, you have to have a trusted provider. So you have to go to, it slips my mind now, but you can go to Google, and I'll provide a link for anyone who's interested to find the correct providers of these rankings. But you essentially have to go to a trusted third party now, and then Google will show their star ratings. It essentially verifies that you get legitimate reviews and legitimate ranking. Below this is Google wondering if you also might want to go see somebody in person. So the top one is just a pure online ad. The bottom, or the second one here, is them guessing that, maybe you might want to go talk to somebody. So where to shuffle in someone close to you. Because remember, their whole goal is that you don't have to search twice, that you only search once, and that you set you're satisfied with the search. So they're going to test out things and kind of let you know. The last important thing, or the last two important things here, is that Google actually didn't understand what you wanted for car insurance. Maybe they didn't have enough information, so they actually mixed a bunch of different types of pages, assuming that maybe one's going to be the one you want. So the third page here, this actually has the nav menu, and so you've got all the other elements. You got the URL, you've got the title. This is the meta description. So when you type that into that meta description tag, this is what you're teaching Google how to find. And you can see here, this is because in schema.org, you can teach Google what both a location is here, what your hours of operation are, and you can mark what your menu is so that they can figure out how to display it. All right, so that is text desktop. Now you'll see that the situation is pretty similar for mobile. Once you are looking for the elements, then you can actually see it. So they thought that the thing to display that would have the highest likelihood of being clicked in searching for home insurance is going to be this ad for farmers. So here you've got the URL, you've got the title, you've got your meta description, and you've got your nav area. These are your nav elements. And they can be different for a nav for a mobile and a nav for a desktop. And yeah, I plan to kind of leave about 15 minutes after for questions, but if anything strikes you guys and you'd like to know some answers, especially if it's relevant to the page that we're on, yeah, just shout it out. So below that, what we see is another mobile text ad. And these text ads are, this is the domain. You can control that. You just advertise for it. Your title, your meta description, and below that, you can see that we have rankings here. All right, so the next type of ad we have is a call only or a phone ad. And these are ads that are designed to drive calls. 100 flowers. So flower delivery today near me. Google knows that you need two types of things to satisfy this. You either need a local florist, so they're going to show you some local floral ads, or you need a florist that delivers and can deliver quickly and on time. So here, this is an ad to drive a call. You can see here we have a URL, the title area, the meta description. We have a bunch of rankings. This is the number of ratings. This is the aggregate rating. And this comes from some sort of trusted third party. Below that is elements of their nav menu in case that you want to just click into there and see some products. And below that, they said, okay, well, we're showing this to somebody on a mobile. Maybe we just need to give them a number to call. Below that, if you really wanted to, you can click down and see their specials. So in this, you would use this sort of structure and this sort of ad if your goal was to advertise to somebody, let's say on a mobile, and drive a call. But you can do the same thing on the desktop. The call is the most important element, and that goes into your campaign setup. So you kind of choose it way ahead of time. All right. So the next set of ads that you can buy from Google are shopping ads. Shopping ads are products. If you sell a product, then you likely are going to want to. In fact, you're absolutely going to want to get your inventory list on Google. There are many programs to do that now. Some platforms like Shopify will sync it for you for free and real time, so you don't have to worry about another subscription. And these are derived from individual products on your page. You can see here the query is Lego City Police Station, and Google interprets that query to be a transactional query. If we're thinking about the search intent, you aren't looking for information on Lego City Police Stations. You have a product picked out. Now you just need a vendor for that product. You're ready to make a buy. These keywords are going to be the most expensive always, because the searcher is much closer to making a purchase. So if you are buying search ads, the most direct and the most expensive ones you can buy are the ones that are the closest to somebody making a purchasing decision. So here you can see the way that Google interprets this is, here's your product. This is your main product image or your headline image, which you add in schema.org in your markup. They've included the title, which they have abbreviated, the product total, and then this is just the name of your company, so that they can figure out, maybe they want a specific company or what have you. And then you can see that Google is trying things to figure out, they experiment a lot. And you can see here, they're experimenting with kind of 4 different types of listings. So even within the product listings, or Google will call this a PLU, you can see here that they're experimenting with adding the rankings, like maybe that's important. Here they're experimenting with giving you some special offers. And here they're experimenting with different taglines that the users specify. So Google, if you specify options, will intelligently cycle through it, and they'll figure out which combination of your options works best for displaying. It's really kind of it's a marvelous system and extraordinarily complex. But you can kind of get ahead of it by thinking about what it is that you are advertising for and setting these up appropriately. So below that, you can see that we actually are getting into kind of the SEO space now. We've got out of the sponsored listings area, and now below that, what happened? Well, who is the best for selling things on the web that you're most likely going to find what you want is Amazon. These are even our organic listings. So Amazon isn't paying for these. It's getting here by force of will, by scoring the highest on the EAT factors, your expertise, authority, and trust. And Amazon really scores high in pretty much all of those, as long as you can find that product there. So here you can see, the way that to look at this also applies to your organic listings. What's Google using? Well, here is the site, right? This is, Google decided long ago that they were going to get rid of the URL structure, because otherwise it'd be // you'd have all that content in between. This is your domain or your URL in Breadcrumb Structure, which also comes from schema.org. So you literally in schema.org tell Google what your breadcrumbs are and how they look, and you update them. So here's the breadcrumbs, here's the title of the page, here's the aggregate star ratings. Amazon produces their own, so that they are trustworthy enough. They don't need a third party. And then below that is a snippet from the meta description. Let's see. And then Jan Knight says, is it possible to see via public source the meta tags that websites are using? And is it possible to see what search terms their visitors are using to find that site? And the answer is yes and yes. Everybody's meta tags are available to everybody. I will go through a quick tool here at the end so you can look at them. But the answer is, yeah, you can see what meta tags that they are using. And in terms of the search terms used to find that site, there are services that can help you with that. Google's not going to tell you unless it's your site, and then they'll tell you with the Google Search Console tool. So they kind of keep that close to the chest, but there are tools out there that will help. Great questions. So this is how the shopping ads look on mobile. You can see here, same sort of things, only they have something a little bit different. Here they have this View More button. You have your main headline image, your title, your price, the actual store, and then view more, which takes you to more listings for that company under this search term. All right, so now we've gone through those. Those are, those are the primary types. So just to review and recap real quick, here's your standard result. You have text and text ads for desktop, which are different than for mobile. You have your text ads for mobile. And these are all ways that you can advertise. So you kind of have to understand how these all work. You have your Google call only ads, your Google shopping ads, that's 4. And then you have to consider kind of the platform. So you really have text with a call only driven and shopping ads. So those are the primary categories. And if you're going to do some advertising, you're likely going to have to choose one of those. And most people end up on the text ad side. So that's just kind of the broadest category. Text ads can kind of work for everything. It doesn't have to be a product, but products get kind of their own set of listing. And Google is really emphasizing their whole product listing. So they are working diligently on being an alternative to Amazon and doing that by aggregating the listings on sites. So if you sell a product or you have a client that sells a product, it's very important that you're uploading that to the Google feed. Otherwise, they will direct people away from you. All right, so the first thing to kind of understand about this is to understand what the value is of being ranked. So this is organic ranking. And in the organic ranking, when you get outside of the first 5 spaces, so, well, first of all, the first 3 spaces control over half of all the clicks. 65% of all searches end in a click on Google. So about 2/3 of people actually click. That number is dropping in recent times. But the highest value is, of course, you can see in those and kind of the first 3 spots. And really, if you add all this up, it comes out to about 80%. So 80% of all clicks that are going to happen on the first page. So if you are going to get shown up, if you have, let's say, a keyword that you're ranking for that you need to produce content for because you want to rank for, let's say you sell shoes and you want to rank for best hiking shoes. Well, this is the value of that spot. And this is actually how we calculate the value of a term. When we look up these terms, we put them into Google AdWords and we get the search volume. And then we use this scale to calculate how many people are likely to click through in each spot. So we know what the value is. And then we use this also to calculate what the actual revenue potential is of that spot. So how many people are going to click through there, and how much money can you make? And so we use this to calculate that. Remember, this is the acronym that we have been talking about. Whenever you're thinking about, we cover this in a lot more terms and a lot more vocabulary in the first and second webinars, but the whole goal is expertise, authority, and trust. And if you aren't going to pay for that top spot, if you're not going to buy space in Google AdWords, then you have to score high here to show up in their results. They want people to be happy. They don't want them to send them to a spammy site. So they're gonna catch us real quick. So just remember, eat. Now, these are most useful when we're analyzing we started with looking at the shopping listings. We started with looking at the ad side of this. So we looked at text, call only, shopping, and product listings. But now let's look at the same thing. And in this case, we're going to take a brief moment to walk through how to analyze these results, because this is really important. When we started, I said, do a Google search, see what Google thinks. But that's not quite enough. You have to know, once they show you, you have to know what it is that you're looking at, right? So here, the search query is Lego blocks. And this would tell me that Google sees this as an informational query. Here are some videos of fun things that you can do with Lego blocks. Here's even a tutorial on how Lego bricks are made. Below that, what Google thinks is they aren't exactly certain what you want. So they thought, okay, well, we're going to show you some category pages. And so it's important to know this. This is the hardest, that being ranked for a category is the absolute hardest way to rank. You really don't want to be there. So you can see here, we have the domain, we have the title, and here's the meta description. Below that, here's Lego blocks for toddlers, which is a category page on Target. And here is a whole different set of something else. These are modular building blocks. So maybe you said Lego blocks and you meant actually you want some other sort of, these aren't toys. These are the size of houses. So this is actually building block systems to put houses together. So it doesn't know exactly what you want, and it's really guessing. And so it's going to be really hard to rank here because Google doesn't know what people want. Otherwise, it would have a more defined perspective. And it's throwing just a bunch of stuff on the wall. So this is the sort of result that you have to be careful of. Here, this is an organic search now. We're kind of avoiding the ad area, and now we're just looking at what Google returns, or what do they view as the best qualified for that search query, because this is really where you want to live. You don't want to have to pay for every visitor. I mean, if it's in your business model and it generates a profit and you do that, we have one client who says, look, Micah, I put my ad spend, and we control our percentage conversion. So I put my ad spend at $1 million a day. And I know if it hits it, we've got these search terms dialed in. I'll pay $1 million if I generate, so we call it return on ad spend, or ROAS. So if it says, if my ROAS is 7 or more, then we're making a profit. So as long as we can keep our ROAS 7 or more, and people are actually going to buy, I'll spend $1 million a day. And he never has had to, but it's been a kind of a clever trick. But here, going back to the organic results, the search query was Lego store. And so what does Google think that you want? Well, it's guessing that you actually want to go to a physical location. And so what it's done is it's actually shown you the store listings. Now, inside of these listings, this is your headline image. This is your URL in the breadcrumb structure. This is your title. This is your meta description, and this is your headline image. So you can see what Google, if you want to show up on a phone, you can see what elements that you have to have at a minimum. That's the way to look at this. And so what did they give back? Well, they gave back the largest Lego store in the US, which is at Disney. And then they said, okay, well, maybe you are looking for just any shop that has Lego. And then Disney comes back to kind of dominate these rankings with the Lego store in downtown Disneyland. So this is Disney Springs, which I think is Disney World of Florida. And here's Disneyland in California. So now this is for the search term Lego, and the thing to notice here is this is the organic results when somebody typed in Lego. And so what did they give you? Well, they gave you Lego's actual page, but below that you're going to see, or if we had more stuff here, you would actually see that there is more that they would be showing. They're not only going to show Lego.com, but they show a whole mixture. They want people to click, and so they'll show a wide array of results to make sure that they do. So here, what you see the URL in your breadcrumb structure, title, meta description. Here are the elements from your nav. These are the nav elements, and these would be like in the actual header itself. So header, and then here are the navigation endpoints. Here are the descriptions that you've given for those nav endpoints. All this comes from schema.org. Now, the other most important thing here to notice is that below this, that people also ask, if you typed in Lego and wanted to ask a question, Google's actually going to tell you what the most common questions are. Why is that important? Well, if you sell Legos, it's an easy way to rank. There's a ton of competition, and this might be very expensive and hard to compete with. And by the way, you're never going to beat Lego itself for that spot, but you can easily beat them on these most common questions. We call this the knowledge graph. So that when you type in and you're doing your diligence, you're doing your search, that's one of the things that you look for. Here, you kind of see the same sort of thing. You type, the search was Lego UK, and these are all organic results, by the way. So these are the best qualified. And of course, you have your official Lego itself. Below this, you have your nav menus. And what they decided is, well, maybe when people typed in Lego, what they actually want is they might want offers. They might want to see, have a variety of options available, something they can click on, because you're holding this in your hand. So below that, you see the Smith toys, because maybe they were typing in Lego as in they just want a big store to go to. So this query, you would have to know, you'd have to type it in to know that you're not gonna compete for, and you're not gonna beat Lego organically for this. So you need other strategies, or you just have to be happy with having you have to be happy with never having the top spot, which is okay. But I went a little bit over what I had intended. This was just kind of a quick recap. This was a breakdown of looking at the organic results and kind of going through what Google thinks. Because the most important thing that you can do is actually talking, doing that search, figuring out what Google thinks, and then figuring out how, picking the best way to compete. Don't try to compete everywhere. Be a sniper. So, thank you. And questions?
Be a sniper. Did you want to cover Jan's question?
Yeah. Okay. So she said, Jan's question was, is it possible to see via public source the meta tags that websites are using? And is it possible to see what search terms their visitors are using to find that site? So to answer your first question, Jan, let me pull up and let me show you how to find, the meta tags. So Google has, that they want you to rank well. And so there's lots and lots of tools that are available. Google has their page speed tool, and they have their page analyzer tool. So let me switch over to that view and show you, how to go from nothing to a result. So Google Site Analyzer. So if you ever wonder, if you ever wonder what Google thinks about your site, just ask Google, because Google will tell you. They want you to have a great site. They want the great experience for their end users. And so this is where you go to find it. So in these page speed insights, this is probably one of the most common areas that we play. For example, here we're going to go to www.globalchamber, and let's go ahead and see what Google thinks about your page speed. So they're going to give you back all sorts of important things here. How fast does it load? What areas do they consider to be problematic? They'll look at desktop and the mobile, and they'll also give back things like the meta tags they found. It's of course all free, and this is the authoritative source. So you're going straight to the end source for this once it loads. All right, so you can see here. This is the return for Global Chamber on mobile. That here is a bunch of content and results about the page loading and things like that. Here's other audits that you pass. So if you are optimizing your site, the best thing that you can do is plug it in here and make sure that there are as few of these red areas as possible. So, and Google tells you what areas are okay with this what areas are good with this green circle, what areas are okay, but you might be getting a warning, and what areas do they consider to be problematic. So the first contentful paint means how long until you start seeing things on the page. First input delay is how long until the page takes over, and you need to return from the server. So this is measured in milliseconds. And then the largest contentful paint is a measure of the site itself, and when is the site done loading. And so actually they'll even show you, if you take a look here, this is what the user sees when the site loads. It actually loads white, oh, nav menu, oh, image, logo. So and then they'll even give you kind of some suggestions. So this is like what Google thinks about your page, how they would rank it in their scoring. And really what you want to know is how you rank relative to other people in that same search. So if you're going to rank for a term and you want to outrank them, put them into here and put their page that is showing up on the search site. So then you have an apples to apples comparison of what you're trying to rank for and what you have to beat. Now, in terms of the SEO Site Analyzer, so you can type in SEO Site Analyzer. Neil Patel is always a phenomenal resource for this. So we're going to do the same thing here. Now, here they're actually going to give you the technical things back, the meta information and things like that. Global Chamber. All right. Now this takes a little while, so we're going to let this run, and I'm going to see while we're letting this run, what other questions might you guys have?
It looks like Jan's asked a second question while we're waiting.
I used to just look at the raw HTML. Yeah, Jan, you're absolutely right. The sites have become so complicated that it used to be simple, but now you have tags embedded in tags. And so really what you have to understand is for all those tags, okay, what is it that, which of those tags, how are they being interpreted rather than what's there? It's even hard, we do this all the time, and it's hard for me to go to a site and see with any amount of certainty, what the tags are just by looking at them. Like we have tools that we use for this, and Neil Patel is one of them. He gives lots of great information all in one area. Backlinks, keyword analyzer, keyword overview with some ideas. Let's see. So yeah, Neil Patel is a great resource for this. Here, this SEO Analyzer is free, and they'll give you back. They'll give you back with what they found on the site. Things that you're ranking for, things that you can do better. Here, if you actually click on and you click into some of their areas, they'll actually tell you by individual page. And you can see here, at least these views, these are all free. So here's your backlinks, here's the page. If you click in, they link you to the individual pages and so on. And here are, based on, so he's looking at a domain level right now. And based on that domain level, they're showing you what the search terms are his. So these search terms come from Google's Search Console. So the main way to get what tags you show up for in search is to sign up for Google Search Console, and Google will actually tell you. Show you real quick what this looks like. It's a free tool. You submit your site to it. Start now. And so here is one example. Oh, no wonder. So here's Google Search Console. It's important that you submit your sites to this so you know how people are finding you. Here is what Google thinks about the elements. They can see that Core Web Vitals, which means performance, mobile usability. How many pages did it find breadcrumbs on? How many pages did it find products on? How many pages did it find reviews on? And then most importantly, you have this performance here. This performance is Google giving you back which keywords people use to find your site. So, you can type anybody's site into Neil Patel. Into Google Search Console, you have to sign up and validate that you own that site. So that is how you find, that's how you find the keywords that you rank for. Neil Patel will give you the meta tags, and this is how you find the search terms that you rank for in your own site. Or you have to go somewhere like Neil Patel, and he will give you other people's. So it's great for competitive research. Great question. And yeah, Neil Patel is a phenomenal resource. So anything by him. And
I think top of the hour, Micah. So we're going to need to wrap up. Is there? Really appreciate the information is amazing. Appreciate everybody who's attended, and I know we've got to start to wrap up. Is there anything else in closing that you wanted to mention? And I think we definitely want to kind of point people to kind of what next steps might be. You've gotten a taste of this expertise, and so what are some of the options for people to go? Where should they go from here to get more help?
Yeah, so that's a great question and really a great segue. You guys can visit us at connectai.us if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out, to send me an email, or get a hold of us on our contact page if you are interested and want to dig deeper into this. And that we're really just kind of scratching the surface, but this is easy. You can do it. And if you run into any questions along the way, we can absolutely help. This is a complicated space and it's changing all the time, but that doesn't mean that you can't be on top of those rankings. So next step is send me an email or come to the site and fill out the contact form. And yeah, let's talk.
You are at the top of our rankings every day. Really appreciate the information. Love your, not just what you have to share, but the way you share it is awesome. Great to listen to. So yeah, if you're out there and you'd like some more information, go out to their site. If you have whatever issue, you have a question, send it to info@globalchamber.org, and we're very happy to connect you to Micah and his team. You guys are growing rapidly, and you do a lot of work in the United States, but you do work for clients around the world, don't you?
Yes, we do. So we have clients in about a dozen countries now, and so we work everything from small and independent businesses to large enterprises, and then we even consult with some trade organizations and some trade offices with foreign governments. So we really span the gamut. So we can help small, large. No question's too small for us. But small or large, we like to be able to help wherever it's needed. So
Small questions lead to big questions and big opportunities. So whatever it takes. Micah, thank you for sharing today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you everybody who attended today. I appreciate it, you guys. And Doug, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jan, for your questions and everybody who had comments and for everybody who participated today. We will have these, actually all three of these will be bundled up and we'll have these on available to those who attended. So please watch for that. And we'll have a little bit of a summary as well associated with that on our blog soon. So thanks, everybody. And I encourage you to all have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Micah. Happy Western civilization, Good Friday, Western Christianity on the Western side. And those of us that are Orthodox, we have another 4 weeks before the next Good Friday. So let's work together in the next month and have a great month from a business standpoint. And let's see if we can make a dent or two in the world. The world needs us to make a positive dent. Let's work together to do that. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.